Some good news today for Tesla stock here. Tesla today won the first US trial over allegations that its Autopilot driver assistant feature led to a death, as the jury found there was not a manufacturing defect in the system. The case in a California state court was filed by two passengers in a 2019 crash who accused the company of knowing Autopilot was defective when it sold the car. Tesla argued human error caused the crash. And Tesla stock is actually up today. Elon Musk says that Tesla is aiming to make 200,000 Cybertrucks per year at volume production, maybe more. I personally like when expectations are kept low. Gives me more time to buy Tesla stock at cheap prices. Elon says the Cybertruck weighs up to 7,000 pounds depending on the trim, and they are aiming to get the 0 to 60 miles an hour time under 3 seconds for the beast mode version. Elon also said that they will release a video of them shooting at the Cybertruck, although the glass is not bulletproof, which you already knew. To make the glass bulletproof, you would have to make windows not be able to roll down. GM has made a deal with UAW, but Bloomberg is now reporting that UAW is starting to organize at Fremont, where Tesla has a factory. The union is immediately trying to capitalize on their success with the big three. Gene says it's going to take a couple months to sort this out. My guess is Tesla employees vote down the UAW and get a pay raise, likely 20% compared to the big three that are giving about a 25% bump. I think it is very unlikely that the employees would actually organize and join the union, because even in Sweden, there are 90% of the workers, something like that, are under some sort of a collective agreement. Even they actually refused to go on a strike against Tesla, even though the union actually ordered them to do so. Gene continues here. Bottom line is the workers have the upper hand, and margins for the big three are going lower. For Tesla, I expect gross margin excluding credits will be capped for the next year at around 16%, in line with what was reported in September. If Tesla wages remain stable, I would expect margins to inch back to 18% over the next year. Here's what the union leader said: when we return to the bargaining table in 2028, it will not just be with a big three, but with a big five or big six. More likely, it will just be a big one, which would be Tesla. We got the delivery data from China based on the insurance numbers, and it is 10,800. If you look here, it's basically exactly the same as what it was before the refresh. My expectations were not high for this first week with the refresh Model 3s being delivered in China, but I do have higher expectations towards the end of the quarter. Right now, Tesla is still focused a lot on exports, so pretty much probably almost every single vehicle that is made that's a Model 3 is still going to be exported, but that will start to change later in the quarter. James, though, was expecting 15,000, so I don't think he's very happy. But he says he expects a big jump next week and that there's still plenty of time in the quarter, so it's not a concern for him. Gary did not offer any personal comment about the deliveries in China, but he did update his catalyst list. He still expects an FSD OEM licensing deal this quarter. Seems like there were some quality issues with the yoke peeling like this, but Tesla is about to release a new version of it, so that should fix the issue, hopefully. What is happening here in New York City? Here I am at the Brooklyn Tesla Sales and Service Center. People are waiting in the line all the way to the street. They are here to buy a new car. This is the sales line. This is a bit unusual. Now, of course, they could just buy a Tesla online, but maybe they want to test drive, or maybe they are taking delivery there. I'm not exactly sure, but this comment offers some insight into what's happening here. I think all are Uber/Lyft drivers trying to snag a Tesla with the new rules to allow only electric cars to get a plate. So maybe this has to do something with some sort of a new rule. I haven't confirmed this yet, but it looks so. I think so, he says. Otherwise, no one was able to get any TLC plates. I think the cap was 75,000, but now they increased to 100,000. Okay, and Ray confirms this. Basically, New York City's new EV policy to expand for hire EV fleet from current 75,000 units to 100,000 units push Tesla sales up in New York City and nearby cities. And here is a New York Post article confirming that change. So Tesla is certainly benefiting from that change. A Tesla engineer offers some insight into the Tesla Cybertruck's range. He suggested it to be as good as or better than a Model X. For those unaware, the Tesla Model X, depending on its configuration, has an EPA estimated range between 333 to 348 miles. So that's probably what we should expect for the dual motor Cybertruck, but the tri-motor, I think, should have more than that. Someone found out that the wiper arm of a Cybertruck is 50 inches long, and it is one big arm and two smaller overlapping wiper blades underneath. This UMSAE Formula Electric team from the University of Manitoba has won its partnership from Tesla, with the automaker providing the student team with 2170 battery cells to power their electric race car. That's one way to recruit some talent later. This seems to be happening quite often now. Just like last week's accidental leak, Tesla has removed the section of the Model S service manual that shows the new sport seats. Steve and Mark Ryan is excited about this Tesla stock buying opportunity. If you look at the 52-week high, you will see $300. If you look at the 52-week low, you will see $100. And I agree with Steven here. Violent mood swings are the rule, not the exception with Tesla. Here's quite a story. Farzad says, laughing my butt off, this can't be real. Someone says that Tesla boomer mama, Alexandra Mers, is gonna be mad when she sees this. S&P has upgraded Ford's credit rating from junk to the lowest investment grade level. Despite lower momentum in contribution cost reduction in recent quarters, we believe there is adequate cushion in our EBITDA margin expectations over the next 24 months. Over the next 2 to 3 years, we expect to see further improvement in the company's structural costs, given management's focus on complexity reduction, for example, less parts and product configurations, as well as not really focusing on EVs, the thing that actually really matters over the next 10 to 15 years. And controlling engineering and manufacturing logistics related expenses. In our view, this will more than offset higher labor related expenses, which we expect would affect EBITDA by roughly $1.8 billion cumulatively through 2026, following the recent tentative agreement reached with UAW. Speaking of unbelievable things, Neiman Marcus is selling a one-of-one 2024 commissioned by Cadillac Carmen Celestiq EV for a staggering $1 million. The disappointing part about all of this is that probably GM is still losing money on this. Stellantis expects that the UAW strike cost them $795 million in third quarter profits. Ouch. There's a new EV from GM, and at first it was a bit confusing because it says that it starts at $35,000 and at the same time it has 319 miles of range. That's pretty good. But it turns out that the lower priced model only has 250 miles of range. That higher mileage is only for the more expensive model, but it will be eligible for the full $7,500 EV tax credit. This is really cool and useful, especially if you are going through more difficult roads with a lot of lanes and exits. It shows you basically exactly where to exit. This new update will give you this sort of view in Korea. I want to have that over here as well in Canada. This would be pretty useful. Some of the time, if I'm going to new places and I've never been there, and sometimes you have two exits very close to each other, and especially with Tesla's navigation, right now, it just doesn't quite zoom in all that well for me when I use Tesla's navigation. I much rather prefer using Google Maps on my phone, which has a tiny screen relatively to the huge, enormous screen that Tesla has, because it just works slightly better with tricky exits like this one. Like right here, see, there's another one right there, but it shows you, oh, you need to take this one. With current Tesla's navigation, it seems a bit, sometimes it's not the best for me. If we can have this feature over here as well, then I will never use Google Maps ever again. This is probably the right move for Porsche. Porsche is adding Google to its cars as VW software problems worsen. We saw VW wanting to fire thousands of employees that are working on its software because it's not working. Yesterday, BYD reported Q3 earnings, and they did have record profits. That's net profit that we are talking about. It is up 82% compared to last year. Also, BYD's gross margins reached 22%, which is the highest margin in 3 years. But the stock is not really doing anything. Today, it is actually down. Why? Well, it turns out Warren Buffett just sold some more BYD stock, but also BYD's third quarter financial report revealed a significant downturn in free cash flow, plummeting by $7.3 billion from a robust $4.8 billion to a concerning minus $2.6 billion. Free cash flow, of course, is very important, but in the end, the net income is what really matters. AJ dives a bit deeper here. This drastic drop disclosed by the company was primarily propelled by a staggering contraction in operating free cash flows, plummeting by $7.1 billion from a healthy $9.3 billion to a mere $2.2 billion, despite a relatively modest increase of $200 million in capital expenditures quarter on quarter. These figures underscore a challenging quarter for BYD, he says. But we all know that BYD is still in hyper growth mode, so it is sort of expected that BYD will be spending a lot of money. I live in Canada, and Canada just entered a technical recession. Not really a big recession, just a tiny technical recession for now. A chief economist at the Conference Board of Canada said that there's a real risk that this could unravel into something deeper, and because Canada and the US are so linked, this could possibly affect the US as well, which then affects Tesla. When I saw this earlier on X, when I was just scrolling through everything, I thought that Elon is telling them to finish the presidential debate on X, but it turns out it is the Finnish people that will be having a presidential debate on X. Either way, that's good for X. More eyeballs, more users, more profits, or less losses is good for X, and that's also good for us Tesla stock investors because Elon is then less likely to sell Tesla stock. Euro area inflation eased to its lowest level in more than 2 years as the bloc's economy shrank following an unprecedented ramp up in interest rates. So inflation is good in Europe, so that's good for Tesla, but the economy over there shrank slightly. That's not good. With Canada now technically in recession, Europe could be next. This probably contributed to yesterday's Tesla stock weakness. This company is in the semiconductor space. The stock dropped 20% roughly yesterday. ON sells silicon carbide chips to EV makers and cited increased risk to automotive demand due to high interest rates. ON sells to automotive players with over 50% share of global EV sales, including 4 of the top 5 China EV makers. ON reduced its 2023 SiC revenue forecast from $1 billion to $800 million only now. Panasonic also yesterday cut its domestic battery production and cited Tesla Model S and X Q3 demand weakness for cutting their outlook. Inside EVs writes that the main reason behind the slowdown of Panasonic producing less batteries in Japan is the slower production and sales of the Tesla Model S and X cars, which are equipped with Panasonic's 1865 type cylindrical battery cells imported from Japan. But the good news is that the slowdown does not concern Panasonic's North American battery factories. The Gigafactory in Nevada, operated in partnership with Tesla, which produces the 2170 type cylindrical battery cells used in Model 3s and Model Ys and other products. Also, the Inflation Reduction Act has brought significant incentives to produce batteries locally in the US. You get $35 per kilowatt hour battery cell plus $10 per kilowatt of battery modules. Additionally, EVs must also be produced locally to qualify for the federal tax credit. Also, we learned that Panasonic is expanding its manufacturing capacity at the Tesla Gigafactory in Nevada. When you think more about this, it sort of makes sense because the Model X now qualifies for the $7,500 EV tax credit. So you better make sure that you put the right batteries into this vehicle, otherwise it will not qualify for the credit. Also, I have said this before, but Tesla could delete the Model S and X entirely from its lineup. And if you look at the stock price, let's say in 2030 or 10 years from now, I don't think it would make much of a difference at all. What matters is the Model 3, the Model Y, the next generation vehicle, FSD, and energy storage. This chart here is from the Bearded Tesla guy YouTube channel, and you can see all of the price cuts and that Tesla cut prices in September. So I know a lot of people are looking at Panasonic and say, oh, there's less demand, less production here. Is this permanent? While there's a good chance that that may be the case, it's also important to understand that September was the last month of the quarter. To really see how well these price cuts are working, we need to wait for at least one full quarter. And this video, this is scaring some Tesla investors, but I am more excited, is exclusively available on Patreon. By joining my Patreon, you will get access to how much I think it is fair to pay per Tesla share each year between 2023 and 2033. If you sign up for the investor tier of support, you will also get my valuation model of Tesla stock with a 45-minute video walkthrough. And YouTube says you should watch this video next, but if you haven't finished watching that discussion about the future with Elon Musk, watch this one first. My name is Matt. Make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't yet, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching.